The messy end to this Supercoach season is finally over, thank goodness for that. We don't really care about the score these days, but unfortunately I got kicked out of the top 2k, so we end the 2021 season on 2,527 overall. It is my best ranking since starting Supercoach, which is great, but it also shows we've got a hell of a lot to improve on for next season. We'll quickly move on from Supercoach 2021 though, because we've got finals to look forward to. I can't wait for the NBA season to start in a couple of months, and of course we're also looking ahead to next season of Supercoach. So this is how the final team looks. Won't be on this screen for too long, but good to see Laird and Lloyd go out with a bang. Short ended the season pretty nicely. It was hard to watch Geelong choke the way they did, but Clary was unreal that game, as was Gawn. After a month of garbage, of course, Lachie Neale ends the season with a 133 when it doesn't matter. And the Bonds had a real underwhelming end to the season. I put out a tweet, probably wasn't seen by many, I don't have that much of a following, but you gotta wonder how much that shoulder injury affected his back end to the season. And my F1 and F2, you want value for money, and those guys brought it. Hall and De Goey were a couple of the MVPs of the side. But I guess what sums it up for this season is Stewart, Zeeble and Langford on my bench. It really was that sort of year. Could have been so much better, but unfortunately things went off the rails. Now we can reflect on everything that happened this season. First we gotta go all the way back to our starting side, which wasn't good. There were a couple of underwhelming picks, like Lloyd at his starting price. Didn't produce what we paid for, but he was still consistent. Petrarca averaged pretty okay in the end, but there were other players around his starting price. Merritt, Bond. Steele was a little bit higher. Lyons was a touch over 600k. And of course, Jack McRae. I liked watching track play, but definitely could have been someone else at that starting spot. Danger was a mistake, but ultimately starting Cripps and Neale really crippled the side. They were the crippled duo. Crippled me at the time and crippled me in the long run. We had to use 2 trades, lost a lot of points in the first 2 rounds. Things could have been so much better if they were simply McRae and Dunkley from the start. Neale down to McRae, Danger down to Dunkley, and Cripps could have been anyone else. Petrarca could have been Steele. I don't know how the math checks out, but anyone other than Cripps would have been better. And below my starting team is the final 22 with each player's average in my side. Defense, Whitfield and Ridley ended up being pretty underwhelming. Never got the best of Ridley's scores, and both of them had a concussion game where they got subbed out in the 30s, so that was no good. Midfield, Neale was the obvious mistake, just owning him at all. The rest of them averaged 110 plus, which is great, especially Brayshaw, because kinda expected him to be 105 sort of player, but that 190 really boosted the average, so that was great. But we still missed out on a number of important players through the back end of the season, as you can see on the right. Steele, Took, Tom Mitchell, Zach Merritt, Ollie Wines. Hindsight says Bond could have been Steele, but at the time there was no way I was passing up on Bond in the form he was in, regardless of the price. But Neale could have been anyone else. Tom Mitchell and Zach Merritt I think were below Neale's price, and Wines I think was around the mark as well. So that really proved costly in the end, going with Neale instead of any of those guys around his price point. And the forward line, Hall averaging 116. By far my best and my favorite trade-in of the season. He was high risk. I was just hoping for a 90 plus average in a forward line where we were just looking for anyone, and he goes out and averages premium mid-type numbers. Just unbelievable. And to goalie averaging 109, we picked him up at 371k, and that's what he provided. And then there's Shea Bolton right under him. Never again, never again. And then we have the bench warmers and the injury suspension tradeouts. This just documents how injuries affected the year. Bench warmers are the players that were on my bench injured but I didn't trade out. So Ridley concussion, Dusty concussion, Grundy neck injury, Neil I think the first was a calf and second was illness, Whitfield concussion, Langford had hammy issues, and Lloyd and Stewart injuries the last couple of weeks, and that was a total of 15 games worth of premium scores missed. And the injury suspension tradeouts, Danger getting suspended round 1, Cripps and Neil I put an asterisk next to because they played through their injuries but they were definitely not 100%. Dunkley, shoulder, Impey, unfortunate season ender, as was Dusty's. So those ones forced my hand, and yeah, in the end just a lot of bad luck, especially through the back end of the season. So here are all the premium scores I had throughout the season. I guess a couple of things to note from this: when you have 9 different premium forwards throughout the season, it really shows how much of an impact injuries had, particularly on that line. Scores in red are games or players got subbed out, and I have a couple of scores in orange which are injury affected games which the player played through, and of course both of those are from Lockie Neal. Maybe I missed a couple, but those games from Neal are definitely in my memory. That 98 could have been subbed out after the shoulder injury in the first, but he played on, and then the 70 could have been subbed out for concussion, but he played on as well. It was just that type of year for Neil. And what this also allows me to see is whether I really got to see the full potential of my team. And I don't think I did. I think the first time I really got to see a full premium team was round 17. Yeah, we had all our premiums playing there, and even still Whitfield ended up getting subbed off with a concussion, so we couldn't see a full premium team round 18. Round 19, no, Langford was out. Round 20 we got to see a full premium team, and then Ridley and Neil stuffed things up that week. And then after that there was always at least one player out. So yeah, rounds 17 and 20 were the only rounds I really got to see a full premium team, and even then it was slightly underwhelming, with Whitfield having a 32 and then Ridley and Neil 52 and 70. Yeah, it's quite sad really. We never got to see the full potential of this team. All that building from round 1 to get to full premium, and we only got to see all our premiums scoring at the same time for 2 rounds. And here we have all our captaincy scores. I think I remember seeing a tweet from SuperCoach data which showed the best captaincy averages amongst SuperCoaches was around 140. So this was poor by me. Only averaged 124 from my captain scores, and there's just a lot of red there. Just not good enough. I got greedy a lot of weeks, and not having some of the best back end of the season players this season really hurt. Of course there's a lot of luck when it comes to your captains, but I still got to be much better when selecting my captains or just choosing whether to be greedy or not. We'll quickly touch on the trades again. I went through this in the round 19 review, so if you want to give that a look then go to that video, or if you just want to look at the trades I made here you can just pause the video. But it was a mixed bag. Shouldn't have needed to trade in Dunkley and McRae, they just should have been my starting side in the first place, so that was 2 trades wasted early in the season. But on the other side, there was some really good in Hall and De Goey. Like I said before, a couple of the best trades I've made. But ultimately, I think it just comes down to having a better starting side. Just really got to do better at that next year. I know it's very early days, but if I had to draft a 2022 starting side right now, premiums that is, defense, my certainties would be Lloyd and Hall. Both super consistent Seagulls. Hall's a lock for me, only went under the ton once after I traded him in. Third defender, I don't know. We'll have to see how Stewart's preseason goes for sure. Could be Rich or Short, someone like that. I don't know. Midfield, McRae, Steele, Oliver, absolutely. Neil will be a bargain. Fifth mid, could be Took, Bond, Walsh, someone around that price maybe. Rucks, the Gaundy duo isn't quite a lock. Definitely have to keep an eye on how Darcy goes. And the forward line, Dunkley, Danger, De Goey, if he gets the mid-time again, something like that. Duncan might be a forward next year too, so he might be someone I start as well. So that's it for SuperCoach 2021. Might do some NBA Dream Team videos when the time comes, but we'll see. We'll learn from this experience. There's a lot to take in to next year. But at least it was far, far better than SuperCoach 2020. So we got that going for us. I appreciate those of you who stuck around to the very end. I know it's easy to lose interest in SuperCoach during the back end of the season, especially when things aren't going too well. And I was in that boat. But we got the last few videos out and it's over now. We also got past 200 subs throughout the season, so I'm thankful to those of you who are subbed to the channel. But that will do it. It's time for finals footy. Hopefully it can be Geelong's year, even without Tom Stewart. Looking forward to SuperCoach 2022. Hopefully we can do better next year.